I was standing barefoot in the snow, -12 degrees. On Christmas Eve, my father had just told 30 relatives that I had behavioral problems and needed to learn respect. Then he locked the door behind me. What he didn't know, someone had been searching for me for 12 years. And that night, a black limousine pulled up to the house. If you've ever been silenced by someone who confused control with authority, if you've ever been punished for asking a simple question, this story is going to stay with you. Hit like, subscribe, and settle in. Because sometimes the truth doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it arrives with headlights on. My name is Evelyn Hart. I'm 26 now, but the night that changed everything, I was 14. My father, Richard Hart, believed in one thing above all else. Obedience. Not respect. Obedience. He wasn't loud. He didn't scream often. He didn't need to. His voice had a sharpness that cut deeper when it stayed calm. That Christmas Eve, our house was full. 30 relatives packed into the dining room. The air smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey. Laughter echoed off polished hardwood floors. It looked perfect. That's how my father liked it. Perfect. Dinner was going smoothly until my uncle made a joke about family inheritance. Everyone laughed. I didn't, because I'd overheard something weeks earlier. My father on the phone, whispering about legal paperwork, about closing certain chapters permanently. It bothered me, so at dinner I asked one question. Dad, why did you tell Aunt Margaret that Grandma signed everything over to you? The room went still. It wasn't an accusation. It wasn't loud. It was curious. But curiosity was not welcome in my father's house. He set his fork down carefully. Excuse me. I felt 30 pairs of eyes land on me. I just heard. That's enough, he interrupted. His jaw tightened. His posture straightened. Then he turned to the room and smiled thinly. Evelyn has been struggling with behavioral issues lately, he announced. Behavioral issues. My face burned. I just asked. Go outside, he said quietly. The quiet was worse than shouting. I thought he meant cool off. But when I stood up, he added, and don't come back in until you learn respect. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. I walked toward the door barefoot. I hadn't bothered with shoes. It was my own house. The door closed behind me. Then I heard the lock click. That sound, it still lives in my bones. The cold hit immediately. Sharp, violent. The snow burned under my feet. I knocked once. No answer. Through the window, I could see silhouettes moving. Glasses raised. Conversation resuming. My father continued hosting, as if I wasn't outside, as if I didn't exist. The cold crept up my legs. My teeth started chattering uncontrollably. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried to stay near the porch light. Minutes stretched. I felt small, smaller than I ever had. I wasn't rebellious. I wasn't reckless. I had asked a question. That night wasn't the first time he had twisted reality. For years, he'd told relatives I was dramatic, sensitive, difficult. It became easier for them to believe him than to look closer. Inside the house, silence meant survival. Outside, in that snow, something shifted. Silence didn't feel like safety anymore. It felt like erasure. Then headlights turned onto our street. A long black limousine rolled slowly toward the house. I thought I was hallucinating. It stopped in front of the driveway. The driver stepped out. He looked at me, shocked. Are you Evelyn Hart? He asked. My voice barely worked. Yes. He frowned. We've been trying to reach you for years. Years? The front door opened behind me. My father stepped out, irritation written across his face. What is this? He demanded. The driver handed him a card. Ms. Eleanor Whitfield sent us, he said calmly. The name hit like lightning. Eleanor Whitfield. My grandmother. Not the one my father claimed to manage affairs for. The one he told everyone had cut ties with me 12 years earlier. The one he said had no interest in reconnecting. My father's face went pale. That's impossible, he muttered. The driver continued. Ms. Whitfield has been searching for her granddaughter for over a decade. We finally located the correct address. The correct address. My father had moved us twice without telling her. I didn't know that then. I just knew his expression had changed. For the first time in my life, he looked caught. "What is this about?" he snapped. The driver met his gaze calmly. She would like to see Evelyn tonight. Inside, relatives had gathered at the windows, watching, whispering. The performance was no longer his. It was unraveling. I felt warmth as the driver draped a coat over my shoulders. My father grabbed my arm. "You're not going anywhere." His grip was tight. The driver's voice stayed steady. "Sir, we have documentation confirming custodial interference and suppressed contact attempts." The words were heavy. Legal. Real. My father released me slowly. "You've filled her head with lies," he hissed. I looked at him. No fear this time. Just clarity. "I ask one question," I said. He had no response. So I stepped into the limousine. Inside was warmth. Soft leather seats. A blanket. And an envelope. Inside were letters. Dozens. All addressed to me. Postmarked over 12 years. None of which I had ever seen. My grandmother hadn't abandoned me. She had been blocked. That night, I learned the truth. My father had isolated us after a financial dispute. He controlled communication, controlled narratives, controlled access. He told the family I was unstable. He told my grandmother I wanted nothing to do with her. He built a version of me that made him untouchable. But lies age poorly. Over the next year, legal proceedings began. Not loud ones, quiet ones, property audits, financial reviews, documentation trails. My grandmother was not fragile. She was meticulous and very, very patient. 12 years later, at another Christmas gathering, the atmosphere felt different. No one laughed at my father's jokes because everyone knew. Documents had circulated, bank transfers exposed, suppressed letters presented. My grandmother's estate had been revised, and I was named the direct beneficiary of assets he once claimed control over. He sat at the head of the table, smaller somehow. When he tried to speak, no one interrupted me. For once, he didn't lock any doors that night, because control had shifted, and it wasn't about money. It was about narrative. He could no longer define me as unstable, because the truth had receipts. Here's what I learned. Silence in the face of injustice isn't loyalty. It's self-erasure. The people who truly love you will search for you, even if it takes 12 years. And setting boundaries isn't punishment. It's the beginning of healing. That night in the snow, I thought I was alone. I wasn't. I was just one headlight away from the truth. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever discovered a truth that completely changed your understanding of your family? And subscribe for more stories where resilience wins and silence finally breaks. Because sometimes the door that locks you out is the one that leads you somewhere better.